Thank you for standing by, and welcome to the Chrysos Corporation Limited Q4 FY22 quarterly conference call. All participants are in listen-only mode. There will be a presentation followed by a question and answer session. If you wish to ask a question, you'll need to press the star key followed by the number 1 on your telephone keypad. I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Dirk Treasure, Managing Director and CEO. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Darcy. And good morning, shareholders. Thank you all for coming to our first 4C investor update following our listing in May of this year. For this morning, plans to keep it fairly brief, providing a background on our progress for the quarter and year-to-date performance. Next slide, please, operator. It's been a very exciting quarter for Chrysos with the deployment of our first North American unit into Val-d'Or, Canada, the deployment of an additional unit to ALS into its central hub in Kalgoorlie, and most recently, post-quarter end, the deployment of our first West African unit into Mali. It's a successful start to our global rollout and represents each of the 4 key operating regions that we've identified: East and West Africa, North America, and Australia. We're now operating a total of 11 PhotonAssay units across the globe, and with 5 new lease agreements signed during the quarter, we have a total of 38 contracted or deployed units, forming a pipeline that extends out to the middle of 2024. Sample volumes for the quarter are up 84% on the fourth quarter last year, and we've had an average utilisation of our deployed unit base of 64% for the quarter, which is in line with prospectus forecast and up from 59% during the same period last year. Correspondingly, it's been a very positive year financially for Chrysos, with fourth quarter revenue growth of 236% per year, resulting in a total revenue of $4.7 million for the quarter. Unaudited full-year total revenue is $14.2 million, which again is a 216% growth on FY21, representing a 3.6% increase on our prospectus forecast. Our total revenue is made up of MMAP, which is our minimum monthly assay payments, AAC, which is our additional assay charges, and other income. MMAP and AAC together represent PhotonAssay income and are in line with prospectus forecast. Our TCV, or total contract value, increased during the quarter to a little over $550 million, based on 5 new contracts we announced in May of this year. It's important to highlight the growing unit-by-unit TCV value, where industry adoption is allowing us to negotiate stronger terms for Chrysos, driving future returns on unit deployments. We've ended the quarter with a little over $92 million in the bank, which is substantial capital for us to continue our strong and sustainable growth story with the rollout of additional PhotonAssay units. Next slide, please, operator. As a quick reintroduction to our business model, our customers commit to a take-or-pay arrangement with a minimum monthly assay payment due to Chrysos, and for any samples that are processed in addition to this, our customers pay us on a per-sample basis, which forms our additional assay charges. So the graph on this slide illustrates Chrysos' revenue breakdown, with the yellow section representing the minimum monthly payments, which continue to grow with each unit that we deploy, providing us with a baseline committed revenue for subsequent periods. The grey section above this is our additional assay charges, which is driven by utilisation of our deployed unit base. Both of these segments show significant continued growth over the period, increasing substantially both year on year and quarter on quarter. The final section in this chart is other income, shown here in black. Other income is a relatively new addition for us and sits outside of what we forecast in the prospectus. As part of a strategic decision to ensure an undisrupted supply of PhotonAssay jars to our customers, which are a key customer consumable, we've brought online an additional supplier of these jars based in Perth. So a portion of this other income is actually related to the purchase and subsequent resale of these jars to PhotonAssay customers. Next slide, please. In the last slide, we discussed the link between additional assay charges and our deployed unit utilisation. Shown in yellow on this chart is utilisation for the past 18 months, overlaid by the black line, which is the absolute number of samples processed per month. We have strong, sustained utilisation throughout the quarter, with an average of 64%, which is in line with our prospectus forecast. Utilisation in excess of minimum commitments continues to drive our additional assay charges upwards, with approximately 20% of our Q4 FY22 revenue originating from these additional assay charges. During the quarter, we processed more than 651,000 PhotonAssay samples, reflecting year-on-year growth of 84%. Our increasing TCV, ability to onboard new customers, and the ongoing increase in sample volumes is indicative of the strong demand for PhotonAssay as we continue to displace FireAssay. By providing faster, safer, and more accurate gold analysis, paired with a low upfront CapEx model for our customers, we're able to build strong and sustainable growth underpinned by long-term contracted revenue. Next slide, please. We currently count 3 of the world's 4 largest laboratory companies as direct customers and 2 of the world's largest gold mines. During the quarter, based on success of PhotonAssay at their Bulyanhulu operation, we've seen Barrick broaden their adoption of PhotonAssay with a new unit to be deployed to their Kibali project in the DRC, which is one of the biggest gold mines in Africa. We've also had Intertek commit to a further 2 PhotonAssay units for installation into Africa, following successful operation of their 3 PhotonAssay units in Perth. We retain a very strong pipeline of opportunities and continue to assess the best strategic and financial options for the company's upcoming sales. Our sales focus is twofold. We aim to retain a 12 to 15 month deployment pipeline, coupled with long-term, multi-unit, multi-year deals with either laboratory or mining companies. With regard to these multi-year, multi-unit deals, MSA Labs, one of our largest customers, announced during the quarter their commitment to 21 PhotonAssay units, which are to be deployed over the coming 3 years and form part of our 38 contracted units. One point that we're mindful of is single customer risk, and we're taking this opportunity to ensure investors that during any point of our deployment schedule, it's not expected that these MSA Lab units would account for more than 45% of our deployed unit base. Furthermore, MSA Labs remain focused on direct mine site deployments, and we expect that a substantial portion of those units contracted to MSA Labs will be deployed in this fashion. Currently, of the 3 units that we've deployed with MSA, 2 of them are already direct to mine site, and we've already announced that we've got the additional unit going to Barrick in the DRC. Next slide, please, operator. To summarise, we have strong revenue growth in line with prospectus forecasts, an expanding sales pipeline and an expanding deployed fleet, sustained strong utilisation rates across our deployed units, continued strong uptake of the technology by the industry, consistently breaking monthly sample volume records, and a business model supported by our committed revenue with exposure to upside in the gold industry, and an ability to reduce unit costs as we go forward and cluster units in key global gold mining regions. In closing, thank you for attending today, and I'd be very happy to take questions from the line.
Thank you. If you wish to ask a question, please press star 1 on your telephone and wait for your name to be announced. If you wish to cancel your request, please press star 2. If you're on a speakerphone, please pick up the handset and ask a question. Your first question comes from Josh Kannourakis of Barrenjoey. Please go ahead.
Hi, Dirk and Brett. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, we've got you, Josh.
Perfect. Just firstly, on the pipeline, could you give a little bit more colour on just the, how you're sort of seeing the pipeline, the adoption mine site versus labs, and what investors should be expecting just in terms of, announcements on a go-forward basis?
No worries. Thank you for the question. Look, with regard to mine sites versus labs, we've always focused and we continue to focus on deployments directly to mine sites. And to be honest, this is one of the reasons why we're excited by the partnership with MSA, where they share the same modus operandi of being focused on getting directly onto the mine sites. The nice thing about mine sites for us is you typically have a baseline committed revenue from these miners, which means that irrespective of macro environment, we continue to have strong revenue from those units. So going forward, we'd like to see more of our units being deployed directly to mine sites. With regard to our sales announcements, there's an obvious sort of trajectory here where as we deploy units throughout the period, we need to ensure that we're keeping the same pipeline. So I commented before that we're aiming for a 12 to 15 month immediate deployment pipeline, coupled with these long-term deals with large companies. For us, what that means is that in any given quarter, we expect to be signing in the order of 5 additional contracts. So In the case of business as usual and the signing of those contracts, we wouldn't see that as an announceable event, and that would come out in our quarterly reports. In the case that we have particularly increased strength of TCV of our contracts, or we're moving the overall TCV, say, in the order of more than 10%, at that point we would be likely to announce to market. So business as usual, it would be in our 4Cs, and any of the more exciting, larger multi-unit deals would certainly be announced to market as appropriate.
Got it. And just so, I mean, obviously you've got some pretty good coverage out to, midway through 24, as you mentioned. So is there actually room or capacity within the current business at the moment to sign, if an Intertek or one of the other big lab players tries to come and sign a multi-year deal? Is that something that you're open to and can facilitate?
Absolutely. And we've talked about our manufacturing pipeline or schedule before, and we've got ongoing increasing manufacturing capacity of PhotonAssay units, which means that particularly into late 2023 and into 2024, there's still a number of slots that we're able to fill. We've been quite conscious of keeping only that 12 to 15 month deployment pipeline so that we're able to have an immediate deployment to a particularly high strategic benefit customer of ours or a particularly good economic customer of ours at that sort of 15-month level. So there's definitely room still here for a multi-year, multi-unit deal with one of the big labs, and also individual units with strategic customers of ours, things like the major mining customers around the world.
Yep, got it. And just on the supply side, obviously we've talked a lot throughout, early days in the prospectus. You discussed a lot around your manufacturing in New Tech. Is there any possibility for a sort of second, manufacturing hub over time, whether it be in North America or otherwise, and how are you sort of thinking about that in the current environment?
Look, there's certainly opportunity in the medium to long term for us to open up an additional supply chain. One of the interesting things for us has always been observing what's been happening with USA tariffs on imports from China. At the moment, there's a fairly substantial tariff on that import, and if that were to remain in place, there's a definite incentive there to be opening up a hub that's outside of China. For us, certainly in the near term, as we're rolling out the number of units that we are and as we're ramping up manufacturing capacity with our primary supplier at the moment, we consider that, for the next 12, 18, 24 months, that's probably appropriate. But certainly out into the medium and longer term, it's a topic of discussion internally.
Got it. And just second question, just with regard to cash flow and balance sheet. Certainly, obviously, still you've obviously got a larger net cash balance at the moment, but investing a lot over the next couple of years. At the time of sort of prospectus, we talked about debt facilities and maybe you could just give us a bit of an update and talk through how you sort of see that playing out, the time frame you're still expecting, an idea around the quantum, etc. That'd be really helpful. Thanks.
Yeah. Hi, Josh. It's Brett here.
Hey, Brett.
That's something that we continue to work on, and we're making good progress. Obviously, nothing announceable at this point in time, but certainly, considering a meaningful debt facility that can work with us to go forward, and we hope to have a formal announcement of that in the next 6 or so months. But it's certainly something that we're very conscious of and doing the work with some institutions at this point in time. But nothing formal to announce. Obviously, we have a great pipeline of cash there to continue to accelerate our growth rate as we've outlined, and certainly, it's into 24 that we need to have that cash in place. So we're certainly comfortable with where we are and certainly making progress around that facility.
Okay, great to hear. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate your time.
Once again, if you'd like to register for a question, please press star 1 on your phone and wait for your name to be announced. As there are no further questions, I would now like to hand back to Mr. Treasure for closing remarks.
Thanks, Darcy. Really pleased with the performance this quarter, and look, we're looking forward to providing our detailed financial results at the end of August. So thank you all for coming today, and hopefully that's been informative, and looking forward to next time.
Thank you. That does conclude our conference for today. Thank you for participating. You may now disconnect.